So you've helped hundreds of people in sales roles find method and structure and purpose to their practice. You've helped them develop systems and modes of operations that allow them to be able to really amplify their results. What is true in all of the scenarios where you've moved somebody, to quote the name of your business, from a rookie to a Rainmaker? Like what is the process of getting somebody from like, I'm enthusiastic and confident and I want to be able to win, to be like, oh dang, they're a winner? Like how do you get them through that process?
So one of the first things that I do when I meet with people is realize where they're at and see what they're capable of and see if they're willing to get there.
Okay.
So I don't want a prisoner. I want someone who wants it. They have to make the decision that they are willing to do the work. So if they're willing to do the work to get them to be a rookie to Rainmaker, I first find out how they prefer to connect with people. Because if I told someone to call for sale by owners and expireds, for example, and that's not what they're into, they're not going to do it.
Right.
So it's getting to know them, getting to see what data they have, what types of phone calls they're going to make, and then creating a plan around how they're going to hit their goals with the data that they have. And all that can be systems and processes and really mechanical and technical. I would say the biggest thing is letting them know, like, I believe in you. You can do it. You can do it. And when you're an entrepreneur, there's not a lot of people there cheering for you and cheering you on. It's being that one person like you want to do 700,000 next year? Yeah, I can get you there. We're going to have to do some things together, and we're going to have to, up level your skill set, but we can get there.
Okay.
Because I can look at their data and know if they can get there.
What almost always sits in the plan? What almost always are the things that they need to do to be able to achieve the outcomes that they're currently not getting?
Be more intentional about their conversations.
Okay.
Not, oftentimes when you're the expert, it's very easy to tell the other person that they're wrong.
Okay.
And be confrontational, realizing how to show up in a conversation and be an advocate and be a consultant and be okay walking away without the business if that's the best thing for the person in front of them. So it's getting them not to push their agenda. I would say 90% of the time.
Okay.
That's what I see is I'm like, that's about you. That's about you. That's about you. It's not about the person in front of you. It's not about the person in front of you. That question. So they're focused on their own agenda in most of their conversations. And they're horrible at follow-up. Horrible. Like they're not setting a next step. So it's like a one-hit wonder. That's what I call that, a one-hit wonder sales call.
What does that actually look like? So if they're a one-hit wonder, what are they doing and what makes them horrible at follow-up?
Sure. They are getting what they need out of the conversation. They are not finding out what's important to the other person about the decision that they're making. If that person is not ready to go right now, they drop the lead. They're looking for the next hot lead. And
so give me an example. Let's go super granular on this. What is somebody doing? Who are they calling? What are they saying? And then what are they not following up with?
Okay. So suppose an online lead comes in. They're picking up the phone and it's like, hey, Phil, this is Andrea with XYZ Company. I saw you were looking at 123 Main Street. What do you like about the house? Are you pre-approved? I'm like, oh. And they ask very broad questions at the beginning of the call. And they only ask questions that help them do their job better instead of finding out what's important to that person about the item that they're looking at. So they show up ready to transact when someone's just curious about the item, the product, the house.
Okay.
So they're showing up with very different intentions. The salesperson showing up looking for a sale, and the consumer is just kind of somewhat interested, maybe swiping right.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Like, don't show up trying to get married if someone else is just trying to go on a first date.
Okay. Okay. That's a big idea. And if then they close that conversation out where that person is not ready to transact, are you saying they just let it go dead from there and they do nothing? Or they do something worse than that?
Well, sometimes it goes dead from there, and it's funny because I listen to sales calls. You can hear the tonality in the salesperson be dismissive.
Wow. Because
they're not ready now. So the consumer feels not seen, not heard, or suppose you have someone who's a renter, for real estate professionals, it's like, oh, done. And in the beginning, 4 years ago, when me and my first inside sales agent, my hairdresser, we worked a lead till it literally, there was nothing left. So a lot of times after that first phone call, if the person's not ready, you're going to hear it in the tonality. They will not ask enough questions, potentially archive or trash the lead. I mean, I can't tell you how many contact management systems I go into where there's archived and trashed leads and it'll be a good, highly paid lead source. I'm like, give me that archive folder. Why is it archived?
Right.
It doesn't need to be archived.
It's like a Glenn Ross moment of like, these are the bad leads, right?
There's no such thing as a bad lead.
Okay.
I mean, literally, I turned a wrong phone number into a $290,000 buyer. Like, there's no such, if someone picks up the phone, game on, right? So they don't spend the time on the phone to get the information they need. They don't have a next step to get back in front of them, or they can't overcome the objection. Oh, they have an agent. Well, suppose you walk into Nordstrom and someone says, can I help you find something? You're like, no, I'm good. It's like that type of example. It's like they have an agent. Maybe they just didn't know you and you came across really pushy and they just said that.
So what should somebody be doing instead?
Besides practicing their phone calls before they make their phone calls, is take the time to be intentional about what's in their database.
Okay.
Have a plan for calling it.
Yeah.
Knowing what they're saying and having a different level of success from every single phone call. Is the next step going to be a meeting? Is the next step going to be a phone call? Is the next step going to be an email? Is the next step going to be a text message? What recommendation am I making at the end of the call if they're not ready to transact now, which is probably 90% of the people you talk to? I would say having that next step set up before you even go into the call, so that way you have a plan B.
Okay. And is this just phone calls, or is this Zoom meetings? Is
Everything.
This face-to-face?
Everything.
Okay.
If you are showing up as a professional at a high level, you are going into the meeting knowing what outcomes there could potentially be. You might get a curveball.
Okay.
You always need to say, all right, well, the next step is, and it should be solely based on what the other person shared in that meeting.
What role does automation and artificial intelligence play in this type of business development, customer outreach relationship? Like, what do you see happening here?
I think there's a space for automation. However, if we get to the point where automation is too automated, it loses a personal connection. There are certain people who send me emails, and when I've met them in person, I know they don't talk like that. So I feel a little insulted because they put their email into ChatGPT and now it's like a fake polished version of them.
Okay.
And I prefer real connections. So it feels inauthentic.
Okay.
So that I think that's the way we're going. And if we continue to have all these automations and these AIs, it's not bad. It loses the human factor. And people do business with people that they like, they know, they trust. That's number one. Number two, for example, I write auto plans sometimes for teams. And what I've learned the hard way is I can write a really good auto plan, but if the team doesn't know how to speak how I speak and how the auto plan speaks, it's not a good fit. So I only write auto plans now with teams who I can coach, that once someone responds to the auto plan, which is really just, hey, they put their hand up saying, I'm ready to have a conversation, I'm not ready to transact.
Yeah.
They need to be able to have a real conversation based on what was emailed. Because everyone, say for example, a lead comes in and someone is thinking about buying a house. A lot of the auto plans are like, oh, you're looking to buy, you're pre-approved. And it's like so punchy. It's like, whoa, we're not even on the first date and you're trying to get engaged. So I think the auto plans that are poorly written are trying to move the transaction forward versus meeting people where they're at today, which is I just clicked on a house.
Okay.
In that example.
So automated email responders, journeys, sequences, auto plans, whatever you choose to call them, they have a place, but the risks are trying to rush too much too soon. The risks are that there's a disconnect, that if it doesn't sound like you when they meet you, that you lose trust.
Or if the salesperson forgets to pause the auto plan. They had a really great conversation and now the system's sending messages that don't make sense. I see that so often.
Okay. Well, people want there to be an easy button. And I remember having a conversation with a large group just last week about some of the communications that are being written on their behalf by their marketing department. And the challenge that I think every sales professional needs to wrap their head around is if the automation and the AI can do it without you, then it will end up doing it without you. Therefore, you are not necessary. Therefore, you be fired. Right? Like that's where it could get to if it was good enough. And my genuine belief is in most industries, we're trying to help human beings navigate one of the most emotionally charged, difficult decisions of their life. And they need somebody to get in the mess in that. Anything that is automated and predetermined is likely to be less than perfect. It's like the meal that you get on your flight is never what you wanted to eat.
Exactly.
Like never, ever, ever, because it needs to be so pre-planned ahead of time that it needs to like be okay for so many people. Therefore, it's not right for anybody.
Exactly. And when you say it's okay for so many people, do I want to work with so many people or do I want to work with the right people?
Okay.
So I understand we could be marketing to the masses and that might be a space for auto plans to see who's interested. But sometimes you get people that you don't want to work with marketing that way.
Okay.
And I'd rather be intentional about who I work with because I'm spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week with these potential clients.
Okay.